Hello and welcome to our EdTech Festival Day 2. Hopefully you guys joined us yesterday for some of our sessions. Today we have Giles here with us. He is the Digital Learning Lead for the Aspire Academy Trust. He teaches there also and has recently become part of the EdTech Demo Schools alongside us at Cornerstone. He has been offering ICT-based CPD to primary education staff for a number of years now, most recently under the Digital Learning Cornwall badge. So because of the recent COVID pandemic, there's been a lot of need for off-site teaching and learning for schools, teachers, parents, and Giles is going to be exploring the systems and procedures that were put in place to provide a parallel experience for children to access materials, whether at school or not. So I'm going to hand over to Giles now.
Good morning, and thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Thank you so much again to Cornerstones for having us part of their EdTech event. It's been absolutely brilliant to take part in it, and I'm very happy to show bits and pieces that we've been doing. We've been running CPD since about 2012 for teachers in IT, and obviously in recent times that has stepped up hugely. But we've always focused on the practicalities and the realities of using technology in a classroom. I'm very much aware that there have been many years of systems attempted to be implemented in schools, which sadly failed to make the mark, and very much keen to get schools to spend their money in the right way on the right solution. So moving to this thing about Seesaw, Google Classroom, blended learning. Obviously schools were put in a position where they had to have provision for children who were at home and provision for children who were in school, and so we chose this idea of parallel provision, which basically means that whether a child was going to attend school or be at home, the materials and the teaching would essentially be available for them online. And the material that is given to them at school will be exactly the same as the material that is available to them at home. So this term parallel provision is what that's all about. And in terms of the school's reputation with parents, in terms of what the schools were demanding from parents, this did seem to satisfy a lot of the question marks over, what are you doing for our children when they're at home? Schools were getting, I don't think there's a school around, or perhaps a school like Broadcliff, which jumped very early and a very clear top-down strategy, might not have had this so much, but schools were getting criticism from all sorts of places about what are you doing, and of course the schools are in a difficult position of having to cater for the children at home and then the children at school and the children at home. So parallel provision is what we came to, and actually going forwards, nobody really can be certain about September, October, November in terms of children's attendance. And so having put this in place, it feels like we're in a good position to fall back onto systems should we need them in the future. Quick slide there about the EdTech Demonstrator Programme. We were very pleased to be part of the first wave of schools involved in that, and it's all about peer-to-peer support, so you can get in touch with us if you want to know more about that. So just a little bit of background in terms of these VLEs, as they're called, virtual learning environments, which is a term which I don't particularly like, since it's been around for so long and it kind of makes it more of a grandiose thing than it really has to be. There's lots of ways that schools can communicate with classes, that teachers can have that interface with children, and lots of schools have chosen different routes. I know Cornerstones and Broadcliff have gone very much down the Teams route, which we're in at the moment. Lots of schools have had good success over the years with Class Dojo, and Tapestry has existed down at reception for a long time, and we continue to use that. For us, with our children using very much a Google login interface, the Seesaw and Google Classroom are the products that have stood out for us. Now, we're in a position of thinking, okay, do we go for this one do we go for that one? Which one's going to fit our needs the best? And actually, out of the 28 schools that we work across, we decided that it was worth giving them the choice. Okay, Seesaw's got a very Key Stage 1 into Key Stage 2 friendly interface. In fact, there's some secondary education places that use Seesaw. One of its standout features is that children and teachers can interact with this thing. Probably, you know, out of the box looking at it, first of all, it's clearer about how it works than something like Google Classroom. Google Classroom's got a slightly more formalized interface, but still has its advantages. Obviously, it integrates in with the Google system that's being used with the children. There's a certain amount of automation which we could take advantage of with that. Our systems allow the Google classes to be set up automatically in the background. So essentially, a teacher would log in and see all of the students in their Google class. So there's lots to think about with this. I was just talking to people this morning about schools that are maybe thinking about, you know, they've ditched Tapestry and then they've used Seesaw instead or whatever because they just want to streamline and use one system. I don't think that really works. A 4-year-old child is a very different being to a 10 or an 11-year-old child, and even though we've been working in this situation of blended learning and it's essentially communicating with a parent and a child, we have to think about the needs of teachers in those different age groups. So let's just move on a bit. Seesaw, talked a bit about it. It's got a really simple interface. You know, if you're at school and you're using this product within the school, children can take photos of their work and click on buttons and add audio comments to them, all sorts of things like that. So it's got its niche and it's got its fans, and there are schools that have been using it for a number of years before the COVID crisis. So I'm going to just run through a few of the little bits that are in Seesaw. Now, we use Google logins, but one advantage is in terms of distributing stuff to parents, you can still with it grab a QR code out of it as well. Okay, so it could be set up with Google logins and then QR codes distributed to people. It will chuck a PDF, a 1-page A4 to print out and get to a parent so that they can log in. So there's some advantages there. Into the nitty gritty. If I just show you the screen grab here from one of the classes at Mount Hall, I think this is a year 1 class. It gives you a sense, hopefully, I'm not going to play the videos and things, I'm sorry about that, but I hope it gives you a sense of how you can have this really lovely open video-based, picture-based communication between the staff in the school and the children at home. And you can see here how well I'm kind of blown away at how these teacher and TA have sort of taken to this, and perhaps the insanity of the situation has got them a bit. But taking videos and putting audio comments on there and having this area where the community of the class can sort of maintain some cohesion over weeks of separation. And you'll see on here, you've got, you know, often in Seesaw, you've got this little button down here to click and add audio comments. So it's very much that multimedia experience. Children posting work back of things that they've done. You can see this is a picture of a child taking a picture of some work from a book, and they've also just overlaid a little something in Seesaw because it allows you to do these overlays onto pictures to spruce things up. And again, it's about communicating in that day-to-day way. And here you can see a little bit of written feedback that's given by Mrs. Martin. I've just blocked out some names there. And again, there's always this section to put a quick comment back and the audio comment as well. So if you click that button, you can add on a quick 5-10 second message to that child, and indeed creating those links in audio and video is of course a powerful way to keep the communication and relationship alive. Some other bits from Seesaw, just to show you over here, it does have this activity library, which some teachers have taken to and enjoyed dipping into to find resources. You can structure an activity, and then that goes into your class for the children to complete. There's a certain amount of interactivity in those activities, which is quite nice. And of course, and the less formalized way to just post things, it's got this very clear interface, which is popular with the staff and the children, in terms of adding bits and pieces in there. And so, of course, you know, you've got a link here. If you were to click on that and put in a link to, say, the National Oak Academy, it gives you a nice clear preview of what that session is. So you get lovely previews and visuals of what to click on, which is obviously beneficial for the youngest children. Right, Google Classroom, which is kind of the big beast that people go back to, obviously with the finance that's been offered to schools to set up a Microsoft or Google setting. Schools sometimes sort of go, okay, so we're going down the Google route, that means we're in Google Classroom, and there are pros and cons to doing that. So at Mount Hawk, actually, I don't think I talked about our exact strategy. We've gone for Seesaw at Key Stage 1 and Google Classroom at Key Stage 2. And I'll be really, really honest with you to say, you know, one of the reasons for doing that was to kind of find out which is the best one. All right. And a gut instinct was down at Key Stage 1, the Seesaw approach was going to work that bit better, possibly. And there are some advantages to Google Classroom that made you think, I just don't want to ditch that for the older ones. Okay, perhaps you would say, all right, Seesaw for years 1 to 4, Google Classroom for years 5 and 6, or maybe it's Google Classroom for years 4, 5 and 6. It's been an interesting journey, but the truth is that both systems have actually done pretty well. I won't say that parental engagement with these systems has been as high as we'd really want it to be. But I think that's the same for a lot of schools, and in many ways there's lots of factors involved in that. It will be interesting to see as we thrash out which system has been most successful and what, you know, whether we change tactic for after summer if we need to go back to these systems a bit more. So Google Classroom, let's just dig into it a bit more. I am going to share my screen of a real Google Class as well, just to show you one of the layout type features for us. You'll see in here, this is a typical Google Class. This is my class that I teach. Well, I'm in there 1 day a week, and the other teacher's in there 4 days a week. So you've got this section here of classwork, which is where the bulk of your assignments, as they call it, you have to sort of get used to the American parlance because you're not going to avoid it. You'll see in here we set a topic, and there are the topics down the side, and so you can see that week beginning structure was the way we ended up approaching it, with assignments in here 1 to 5 for English typically, and 1 to 5 for maths, and then some extra bits in there as well. Okay, so quite a lot of material there. That did well in that you were really directing parents and saying, okay, this is what we would like you to do. All right, because a lot of parents were saying to schools, you know, you've given me all these resources here, there and everywhere, but I'm not a teacher, and I just want you to be a bit clearer about, I want you to do this one and I want you to do it on that day. So this sort of structure did appear to receive a positive reaction. Now, if I just go, I'm just checking the time there. If I come out of here and I'm going to come in and share some bits from Google Classroom, hopefully. So let me just take that out. There we go. So we go to Google Classroom. You'll see here a nice advantage of it is that I get access to as many classes as I want. Now, as a school which has got some split year groups, I've got year 3, 4 class, there's a year 3 class, and there's a year 4 class. having access to those different classes is really helpful in terms of teachers' workload. We've had a teacher who was deployed out of class so that she could set the work into these classes, and she was covering most of the material that was going into them. So of course she can put in work for year 3, she can put in work for year 4, and then essentially that's it. As the school sort of strips back and looks again at the provision it's providing in these circumstances, being able to work methodically like that and really efficiently is brilliant. And actually Google Classroom allows you to see where you are with all that stuff quite nicely. So the key advantage, and getting this stuff all set up well is really important. Just while we're here, at the end of the year, I'll go in here and archive this class, and that will just go into the background and then be hidden from the children. So looking at that going forwards, if we were going to use this on a more long-term basis, after each term you would essentially archive a class and start again, and then kind of get a clear deck to work from. But the actual class and work is still available in your archive classes, and all the work goes into Google Drive, so it can be grabbed out of there as well. If I just go into here, I'm just going to show you a couple of little tips and tricks and things for working. Now you'll see in the stream you've got some videos here which is coming from Mrs. Williams, coming from the head, Miss Biddick. There's one in here from me. Let's just have a very quick look at how that works. This has come from Screencastify, which some people will know. And if I'll just play a tiny bit, gives you a hint.
Good morning to all of the year 3 and year 4 children at Mount Hawk Academy. This is Mr. Hill. I'm here on the Wednesday when I normally come into school, and I'm just setting a new little task for you.
Okay, so it gives you a sense of presence with the teacher. It's nice to be able to put those messages out there. I actually had a child just the other day on the Wednesday come in and say, I saw your message this morning, and it was 10 to 8 or something like that when I put that message on there, and it pinged up on the child's phone, not the child's phone, on the parent's phone, that there was something to look at. The parent had obviously had a little tap and had a look, shown the child, and I just thought it shows you that actually that back and forth communication with using parents' phones as that sort of trigger or that place where they get notification of it is quite a nice way to keep the flow going, as long as you're posting those things at the right sort of time of day. Okay, nobody wants messages and things popping up to them at tricky times of day. I mean, when things have come through to me, on Sunday afternoons or whatever, it does make you go, this isn't quite right.
It's going to go into all of the.
Let's not watch that too much. With Google Classroom, it has scheduling built into it, which is nice, so that you can queue up when things are going to be posted on there. Now in this stream, we've adjusted that slightly. Just got to the settings here. There's a couple of things that we've changed. You'll see here that we changed this to only teachers can post or comment. Now if you don't do that, if you've got it on students can post and comment or whatever, you're basically leaving an open forum for children to be able to have a discussion in. There might be some good sides to that. There are clearly some safeguarding sides to that which are worrying as well. So getting that onto only teachers can post or comment is probably the wisest idea. And then down here, you've got classwork on the stream. Now this really should be on hide notifications, because otherwise you get this whole list. Let me just put that onto show condensed and you'll see what it looks like. Have a look here. We get this long stream of stuff, which is all about when Mrs. Powell has been posting these assignments. Now that's not particularly useful or helpful for anyone, so get that turned off. It would be lovely to be able to universally adjust that for all teachers across our trust and all of their classrooms, but unfortunately those settings will appear, at least as things stand for us, as something the teachers have got to change. Now, just going into classwork for a moment, you'll see in here we've got this week's activities. If I go down there, you'll see there is quite a lot. It's a mixed year 3-4 class, so we've got separate tasks for year 4 and separate tasks for year 3, something like times tables, sends them to TT Rockstars, something like spellings, sends them over into spelling shed. So you've got this kind of gamification aspect as well happening, which if you sort of nurture that, there are some really lovely things that you can do with it. For example, in spelling shed you can create hive games, which is basically a live game. So we could say, okay, on this day of the week at 11 AM we're going to have this spelling competition, and if you go into spelling shed you'll be able to join it with this code. So there are things that you can do in that way to enliven communication between people. Just looking at some of the other ways, I'm conscious of the time, I will stop in a moment. If we just look in here at some of the activities, so here's a typical kind of PDF White Rose Maths printed, work done and sent back. Of course, you've got the downside of these pictures of printed work and everything, and that the clarity can be not quite there. You do have private comments features in here, and you can see on there we've got little comments going back and forth. Sometimes things are more detailed than others. Over here we've got the slightly more involved comment. Again, you could use a screencastify or something to make some audio or video based feedback, which would probably be that bit better in terms of encouragement for children. But you'll see with this example, it was a Google Docs template that's set up, actually set up with, I think, these two pictures, and the task is about researching part of marine life. Now in that activity, each child is given the template, and they would literally click on it, it would open in Google Docs, and then they can adjust it as it goes. And so for those sort of year 4, year 5, year 6 children, that way of working can be something that enlivens it. Now, along with that, I can't not flag up at least a couple of other tools. I talked about Spelling Shed a moment ago. Book Creator here. This works outside of these VLEs. It will work outside of Teams or Google Classroom or Seesaw. And so you've got to give children another code in order to get into your library. It does work with a Google login, however. And actually, this tool for me is one of the absolute standouts in terms of children's access to technology. If you look at the quality of the work that's being produced here by year 4 children, independently able to choose these different features from here, possibly able to add audio and video if you want to go down that way, very easily able to add parts to a page, able to search for images which are filtered by the quality imagery. Just chuck that one in there. So that will appear, dragged around it. And you think about tools like this, so this is Book Creator, compared to your Google Docs or your Word or your PowerPoint. These are really the things that are most appropriate for primary school children to interact with. And what I've seen is, I've seen a year 3 class produce the most amazing amounts of work within half an hour, using these tools. So much more and of such higher quality than they would you would typically get from giving them a business grade tool like Word or Google Docs. So this is really something to think about. I just go back to my books on there. You'll see that I can take one of these books and I can publish it online. So I can straight away, if I press that, it's now published online. And if I say read online, we've got a URL here, and that can be shared wherever you want it to, wherever you want to show off your work, whether that's on social media or wherever it might be. That book now exists online. It looks great on a mobile phone as well. So I can't, it's been a bit frustrating for me that people have been fixated with the VLE part and saying, okay, it's all about Google Classroom or Teams or whatever. Actually, when you look at some of the tools for children to create work, you find some of the most amazing things that really open up digital device use for them. So I can't speak more highly of this tool really, and I would encourage you to check it out. I'm going to stop publishing that one, so it's now off the web. Brilliant. Okay, let's go back to questions and things. I can see the Q&A there. I'm going to stop sharing.
Hi, Giles.
Hello.
Okay. Thanks so much for that so far. I do have a couple of questions for you. There is one from Anonymous which says, what is the name of this tool, which I think is the book one you were just on? It's
called Book Creator. The creator of it, Dan Amos, he's from Bristol originally, I think. Yeah, I would encourage you to look that up. If you've got a Microsoft 365 login or a Google login, you can log into it.
Excellent.
And as a teacher, you need to log in, set up a library, and then there's a code that you would share with the children. And so all of the books then appear in that library in front of you. And if you're using it in class, you can have those up on your screen, and literally tap through them and show off people's work on the screen, have children come up to a screen and talk about it. You may not be able to do that at the moment, but that's how it was in the past. And of course they can access it remotely as well. You can just about get away with using it on the free bundle as it is by archiving libraries and things like that. So as well. Thanks,
Giles. That's actually I'm actually going to note that down for myself as one I was unaware of. Great tool.
I've seen it in action in a class, and you wouldn't believe the sort of independence that it promotes in terms of working. And you can set up little templates as well as part of it. You do the first part, book, few pictures. It could even move into being a bit of a VLE itself, because you can add audio comments in there onto books and do things like that. So there's a lot of class community that could work within it as well, because children can produce books with videos in them and things like that. So we have looked at using it for say year sixes that want to be able to put messages to each other. There's an option in the settings where you can either have all books visible to students and all books not. So obviously having all books not visible to students is probably the safeguarding approach that you want, at least, unless you're sort of in a live situation. But you can then combine all of their books, and that book that you've created becomes visible to people. So in a sense, you get to be able to publish things to the children, and the excitement that they would get. This book appears, and they're all in their their messages. It's
yeah, excellent. That sounds amazing. I'm definitely going to investigate that. Children love to create any kind of book, whether physical or digital. So that sounds like a really fab tool. So I hope that was really helpful. To Anonymous.
The frustration is that really you want a tool like that to be the VLE itself. You want it to work like that. And actually what we've found in recent times is there isn't a sort of one fixed product, is there, that does all of this stuff. So people need to jump into the VLE world and then be prepared to kind of look elsewhere as well to bring that variety and excitement.
Lovely, thank you so much, Giles. And the next question, I think, is a broader question about annotating students' work. I'm not sure if they meant on the book creator or whether that was part of some of the Google Classroom work you were doing. But
yeah, I mean, this is like the sticking point, isn't it, for things as they are with children out there, and you know, we're in a situation where we don't know what children's devices are. If we knew that every child had access to a laptop of some sort, we would be in a far better situation, or we knew that they all had a tablet, we would be in a far better situation. Annotating onto PDFs is a really, it's a tough one because of those different devices. Google Classroom, if you're using a Chromebook, it's got annotation into PDFs. If you're using a laptop, like a Mac or a PC, the annotation is not directly in there. But if you're using the mobile app, there is annotation directly on there. So hopefully Google fill that gap and just, you know, so that PDFs are annotated onto everything. In Seesaw, I believe in the free version, you can only annotate onto the first page of a PDF, right? And then in the paid for versions, you can annotate onto the rest of them. There is a bit of a niggle with that in Seesaw, in that there's one way you can distribute PDFs to children, which allows them to see the whole thing and print them. And then another way, which allows the on-screen version, right? And it doesn't seem that you can, without posting twice, it doesn't seem that you can sort of provide for both, which I think is something that Seesaw need to get on top of and solve. So we've found out all the little niggles and things down that route, and I wouldn't say that either Seesaw, you know, you can't say either product is perfect, but again, I don't think any of these products are perfect.
Thanks, Giles. I think that's everyone's going through learning curves, even these products, especially at this weird time.
Yeah, it would be lovely to be, you know, we're talking about surveying parents and finding out exactly what devices they've got, as well as obviously hopefully being able to plug gaps as best we can in terms of their provision. You know, any schools that have had new equipment, like I know some schools that have had Chromebooks in them installed recently, like a set of 30, and if they're able to lend those devices out to people, or have been able to, then that's obviously been a good thing. But clearly, you know, there's only certain schools that will feel comfortable with that, and insurance and all that type of stuff can get in the way.
Great, thanks so much, Giles, and thank you so much for your time today. I particularly enjoyed the strawberry and banana costumes. I think many teachers have gone a little bit crazy in lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I heard virtual insanity on the radio again the other day, and it's
yes, we definitely were reaching that point.
Yeah.
And it was really, really nice to see Google Classroom, actually, because as you said, Cornerstone used Teams over here, were very Microsoft based, so seeing the other side was very interesting, definitely for me. So thanks so much, it's been brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. So
I don't think we've got any calls, and we're right up to the end of our time, so we've done perfectly well. So if anyone has got any last minute questions, we'll just wait a second.
We'll just wait a second, and I will do a shameless plug. Oh, there's Screencastify if you're interested in.
Plug away.
Shameless plug to say, you know, if you want to look us up, and we're part of the EdTech Demonstrator Programme, and we've got loads of webinars now scheduled up for autumn and spring term. So look us up. You can subscribe to our list or whatever, and start signing staff up for these webinars that will come up in autumn and spring.
Brilliant. So go along to some of those. Some definite great ones there. Things I haven't seen before, so really handy.
Lots more research that's going to need to be done to you know, to flesh these out and find the really worthy approaches, because nobody wants technical difficulties.
Yeah, and I think education has definitely changed forever after this pandemic, so all these things will be really useful.
Yeah, I expect we will go through a slight Luddite phase where people are really pleased to not be looking at screens and things, but yeah, I just hope people take the real worthy stuff and not just think that it's all about replicating what goes on in a classroom, because clearly difference.
Great. Well, I'm going to end the live event there and thank Giles once again. Thank you all for joining us today and thank you for your questions. There are lots more sessions today, so I hope to see some of you again. Thank you.